Our final speaker. Thank you, is it Robbie? Rob's been in tech since 2000, so many years. With the last 8 years, been working in streaming media for the likes of DAZN, Amazon, and now Disney. Serial hobbyist, which I'm sure he's going to explain a little bit more about when he comes up. Talking about open source, the original remote first success story. Nice one, Mark, for Rob MacDonald, please.
Right, apologies everyone, I've got a pretty bad cold, so there's going to be plenty of coffee here, so I do apologise for that. And I haven't done a slideshow for quite a long time, so we'll see how that goes as well. Presenter window, got it. Okay, we're good. So, I'm going to be talking about open source and big tech and how that helps, or gets us thinking about global software development. So, does anyone know what this is? What? Yeah, kind of. This is the Synthstrom Deluge, a groove box that allows you to make music. It's one of my hobbies at the moment, making electronic music. Not made any hits yet, but keep your eyes out. Anyway, it's an awesome piece of kit. Highly recommend it. But why am I putting a picture of that on here? Well, you may ask that question. The really interesting thing about the Deluge isn't its awesomeness, and it's my favourite hobby. It's that about a year and a half ago, Synthstrom, makers of the Deluge, made their software, made their firmware open source. And it's been an amazing success story. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about today. And the Deluge software, it isn't a simple application. It's C++, C code, lots of complicated stuff going on there, audio encoding, inputs for all the UI elements. There's a hell of a lot going on. But in the first year since the Deluge project's gone open source, there's been 3 major releases, loads of new features. And to give you, this is about 10 years old, this device. There's been 3 releases of the software prior to that in total. So we've now got 6 releases, 3 of which was last year. And all these people are collaborating from all over the world. The company's actually a New Zealand company. And there are people contributing from everything, all over the world. So I'm Rob, by the way. I'm engineering manager now at Disney. I've been in various different startups, like you mentioned. It's been quite a wide range of companies as well. So I've worked in 40 people startups recently, when it's literally me hands-on doing all the work, to big companies like Amazon, where there's lots of different organisations, lots of different businesses and teams within the one business. So I recently contributed to the Deluge project. We've got some functionality in there, some feature in there. And AI was in no way involved in writing some C++ software that I'd never worked on before. But what was really, really fascinating was I was there, it was just about when you asked me to do this talk, and I thought, okay, what do I know about global software development and collaboration? And I'm writing massive C++ software, communicating with David in New Zealand and John in New York. And it made me think, oh, open source has been doing this quite well for many, many years. And so let's take a look back and also use my experience at bigger tech. What's really important and what really makes a difference when it comes to global collaboration? These are my 3 my thesis is there are 3 core things that really make operating at scale globally work. And that's, I'll go through each of these: asynchronous communication, quality documentation, and customer focus. So, they all sound very obvious, but the devil's always in the detail. It's about how do we make this work in our organisations. And really, when I dived into it, I think it can really challenge some long-held opinions about what a good operating model looks like for a software engineering team, a high-performing software engineering team. So, let's go for async comms. That's one of my bugbears. Somebody just saying hi. It's like, brilliant. What do you want? And you can just imagine, right? It's like the tapping on the shoulder. You know, you're in the office working. Maybe you've got your headphones in. You're an hour into your software coding, and Andy goes, "Oh, yeah, let's ask you a question." That's that, right? That's that. But we do it 10x now, 100x. So we've got these software engineers getting distracted all the time. And taking that to the global scale, it doesn't really work. You know, we might be working with engineers that are 5 hours away, time zone-wise. These kind of conversations don't work. So for me, the communication that works better when it comes to a global scale is synchronous communication. And by that, I mean documentation. I mean information that's stored in a persistent way, in a structured way. And so let's look at what open source does. Open source kind of by default uses GitHub. They use issues, they use discussions. They may have a Discord channel, and I know the one on that Deluge does. But important decisions don't get made there. Product decisions don't get made there. It's more for chatting and sharing your latest tunes. And when you have that, also as well with chat tools, messages can get lost, information can get lost. You have different threads, people do DMs with each other where interesting, important conversations are happening. It get lost and become a real soup to try and find vital information. So I recommend choosing tools that are ASIC tools and sticking to them, whether it's GitHub for open source, Jira or something else, I don't care. For me, org-wide adoption is the really important thing here. Everyone using the same thing. So at Amazon, nearly everything at Amazon uses this one tool. It's an internal tool, kind of a Jira equivalent, but not as feature-rich. But it's adopted across the company. You know, facilities use it. If I've spilled my coffee, I can move a ticket. When somebody's got an issue with the live stream, same system. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows the expectations. It's about being very intentional with communications. I think you touched on it, Rebecca, there, about everyone knowing what good looks like. So moving on to to quality documents. Everyone knows what that is, right?
I guess it's no.
It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book. It's got all the information of all the world, well, of all the galaxies in the world there. So, and Amazon, we talk about writing a lot. We talked about writing a lot. Writing is thinking, is what everyone says at Amazon. It's drilled into everyone. And with teams, at Amazon I had teams in London, I had teams in Beijing, and I saw its importance there. For every significant decision, it wasn't presentations, it wasn't meetings, it was a 2 to 4, 6 page sometimes, narrative document that we would then review. Often with these kind of silent 20-minute talking, 20-minute reading sessions, and then you discuss the contents of it. Myself, what I often did with these kind of documents, operating with teams all over the place, is have a checkbox at the bottom for all the stakeholders, so they would read that document offline when at the time that works for them, and we could then get that information across, and that's persistent information. It's stored somewhere. It's not something that's just on the winds and then gone. But also with written documents like that, I think it's really good for non-native speakers as well, because they can take that document, understand it, digest it, and yeah, it's fascinating as well for me how this is mirrored in open source, right? Pull requests are often very detailed, issues, descriptions are often very detailed, and they're all there for people to read. README files, wikis on GitHub are treated as code, first-class citizens. They're not afterthoughts. For instance, when I contributed to the Deluge project recently, 99%, I would say, 90% of the pull requests was discussions about improving my documentation, improving the user guide, improving all that side of things. And I think that's the way it should be. My final point, customer focus. So, brilliant documentation, async communication, using the right tools, full adoption across the organisation. Brilliant. But what actually motivates people to write really good documents? What drives engineers to write good pull requests and hold other people to account, other engineers to account? Open source, they get it for free. It's because the people who are using the software are often the users, are often the customers of the software. Whether that's an open source JavaScript library or the Simpson Deluge, I'm a user, and everyone who's working with me understands what we're there for, understands the purpose for the software and the product. You know, when people really care about it, traditional management structures become less and less important. You know, with Deluge, there's no roadmap planning, there's no sprints, there's no daily stand-ups, there's no meetings. But what is the secret sauce there is that everyone knows what their product is and what they're working on, what good looks like. And Amazon do this at scale. So the concept of customer obsession is a key thing for Amazon. We've got these leadership principles, and you've heard it. And I would argue that the customer obsession is the main one. But this is kind of what Jeff talked about. Leaders start with the customer and work backwards. They work vigorously to earn, keep customer trust. They obsess over customers. And that's the whole concept that we should all be thinking like customers. And once you do that, great things happen, like the open source software world. I'll skip that bit about PRFAQs. So, whether you're managing distributed corporate team, contributing to an open source project, the fundamentals remain the same. Prioritize asynchronous communication, quality documentation, and the customer focus, which is the difficult one. It's achievable. We need to work hard. So, for me, these principles work because they address the core difficulties with global collaboration. Time zone differences with async communication. Breaking down language barriers because people get time to review messages. Knowledge sharing. If you've got the quality documents there, people can find, you know, who's worked on an open source project for something and actually found they can find what they're looking for. Yeah. They don't use Confluence, they don't use Jira in open source projects usually. And team alignment, you know, with customer focus. If everyone has that customer focus, your team are 90% of the way of being aligned already. So, a couple of possible suggestions for you. With async communications, why not reduce reliance on chat platforms a little bit? Look at what other opportunities there are to document and store your important decisions, important product decisions and technical decisions. Ask questions rather than start conversations in chat messaging. There's still a place for chat messaging, of course there is, but it should be something that's a little bit more throwaway, in my opinion. Ensure people know that out-of-hours responses are not expected. As a leader, that's super important. Quality documents, enforce document updates and pull requests. You know, make sure we can do all that and hold each other to account when we're submitting code. Try a document async review, or maybe a silent read meeting, Amazon style. You know, I am indoctrinated. I do that. And custom focus. What about a PRFAQ document, which is a document where you would write, and it can come from anywhere, write something that you think would benefit the customer, explain why it's valuable. The FAQ section gives you an opportunity to really kind of drill into it and ask yourself, iron out the problems. And then, of course, you've got the documentation there. You've got the reasoning and the thinking and the passion behind why you're building what you're building. Maybe run a walk the store session. So that's getting your team to actually use your software. You know, your team should really understand what it is they're working on, what it is that they're delivering for customers, who their customers are. All that stuff is vital. So yeah, that's the deluge, again from a slightly different angle. And so for me, you know, as leaders, we must demonstrate these approaches as well. Lead by example, role models, as you mentioned. That's super, super important. So we should set clear expectations, teams follow our example. If you respect people's time, if you favour async communication, if you value documentation and talk about it a lot, and if you demonstrate genuine customer focus, they will as well. Thank you very much. I wrote that was an article as well, and that's the link to the article if you want to read it.
Thank you very much, Rob.